Hey, real estate rock stars. This is Aaron Amuchastegui. Hey, I just finished interviewing Kristen Jacoby. That's the interview you're allowed to hear. Man, we had a lot of fun on the podcast. We had tons of technical difficulties, but I think by the end of it, we figured it out. We ended up going way longer than normal because of internet getting fixed and everything else. But hopefully you guys won't hear and see any of that if we did our job. You know, I found Kristen or met Kristen when she went viral on TikTok for one of the funniest reasons. And a lot of the conversation I wanted to have with her was, how was she successful her first couple of years in real estate? How did she get for 16 deals in her first 8 months without any guides? A lot of it was through for sale by owners and some other non-traditional methods I think you guys are going to like hearing. She's very honest in like her script and her methods, and they're ones that we haven't talked about before on here that I think apply to each and every one of you. Plus, we had some fun going into the stories behind social media and how you can use a personal social media to grow and make money in your real estate brand. So without further ado, here's my interview with Kristen Jacoby. Hey, Kristen Jacoby. I'm so glad to finally get you on here. How's it going?
I'm so pumped. It's going great. A little squirrely, but
The first podcast or no?
Yeah.
That's the first time being interviewed on a podcast, but you have your own, right?
Yeah. First time like being interviewed on, I guess, oh my God, I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing. This is a great start.
Yeah. You're a real agent. You're a real person. I think our listeners are going to love that the most. That's why I reached out to you to ask you to come on, because I think that there's probably a lot of fun stuff you're going to be able to tell our listeners today. Some advice you're going to give them, some stories you're going to have that they agree with. Where do you live right now?
I currently live in Raleigh, North Carolina.
So how long have you been out there?
I've lived here for about a year and a half. Not too long. Yeah.
When did you get into real estate?
2.5 years ago.
Okay. Where did you live when you got into real estate?
So I was actually in college. I went to Virginia Tech, but that's a long story of how I even ended up at Tech. And I started my career while studying finance there. Okay.
So you were like senior year in college and got your real estate license?
It was actually junior year. So COVID, I'm so happy. Like COVID, this is in hindsight. I'm so happy COVID happened, because if it weren't for the isolation, I probably wouldn't have like fell into real estate. But because the world was practically shut down, I had to do something. After I got out of D1 sports, I was like, I have to channel my energy into something. So it was during that like world shutdown that I found real estate. And so that was my junior year of college. And that's where it all started.
What D1 sports? What'd you do? What'd you play?
Field hockey.
Field hockey. Did you play at Virginia Tech?
No, so Virginia Tech doesn't have a team. This is a bit of a loaded question. You want to unpack this?
Yeah, I want to hear about field hockey. I've never met a D1 field hockey player.
Oh, well, surprise!
Surprise! That is not on your TikTok. That was not something that I was going to be able to research.
Yeah, no, I haven't really opened up about my story yet, but it's all starting. I'm feeling more and more comfortable to really share how everything happened. But so I committed to play D1 field hockey my junior year of high school. And I played my first year at Longwood University. And, D1 sports and committing is a whole thing in itself. And that's something I'm really passionate about too, because I just feel like I made my decision too young and swayed. And then, after my experience, I realized it was extremely political. And sometimes you hear things to be swayed. And the same thing in real estate. So it's really important just to know, to have your bullshit glasses on, I guess. And I was at this ideal situation and to go to Longwood, and I thought I was going to play a lot, and I was picking between a top 10 school and a school that was like around 55 or something. And I thought I was going to play. I went there and it was not what I expected at all. I was actually kind of miserable. I dedicated my entire life to go play there, like to play D1.
That's serendipitous for sure. So you spent your whole life doing sports, prepping for D1 sports. You get to Longwood, and it's not what you expected. And then you mentioned like the kind of gratitude that COVID happened, and or I guess from what it sounds like you were all in for D1 sports, and all of a sudden when that wasn't there anymore, you're like, I've been working for this my whole life. And it's like this like sad feeling, like, what am I going to do next with my life?
Yeah, 100%. And you're going to have to keep me on track, because one thing about me is I can talk a lot and I love telling stories. So cut me off, please. If
Listeners love listening to stories. You're good.
Okay. Well, then I got a story for you guys. So yeah, I guess, played my freshman year, and I admit it. Like I quit. I knew in my heart, like it wasn't for me. I felt it in my soul. I got depressed, and, I feel like your body will talk to you when something's not meant for you. And so it just pushed me to the point mentally. I was in a low place, and I was like, something's got to change. So I quit my spring semester of freshman year of college from Longwood, quit the team, but I finished out my year at Longwood. But holy cow, did my college journey become a shit show. Like, there's no other way to say it. From that point on, I was in school summer, winter, spring until I graduated. My senior year, my senior summer is the first summer that I had off. So from there, I went to community college, and while I was in community college, when I discovered real estate, it all started. Everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh, but it all started when I read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. My mind instantly went, and I mean, I'm not going to act like I, was an entrepreneur from 8 years old selling bracelets I made. And the entrepreneur, I always kind of like felt something inside me, but it wasn't until I read that book that it kind of clicked for me, where I was like, okay, I don't want to be in corporate America. So then during COVID, I channeled all that like D1 training, determination, grit, all that stuff into real estate, and got my license. Then I sat on it because I heard you can't be successful unless you sell in your hometown. And I let that get to me.
What year was this?
This was 2020.
Okay. And where did you live at the time?
I lived in Blacksburg, Virginia.
Okay. And you were there going to community college?
No. So at this point I was at Tech, I guess. So at that point I transferred to Virginia Tech, and COVID was still happening. Like, you couldn't go out and do things. And so I was living in Blacksburg doing my finance degree online, but living there.
Okay.
And fun fact, I've never sold a house in my hometown ever.
Yeah.
And because I'm from the 757 of Virginia. So like Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach, Williamsburg, that kind of area. And so I'm in Blacksburg, basically the world shut down, and I'm just studying to get my license, doing my finance degree. And I would love to share how I got my license, because it was the most unconventional way probably. Yeah. And it saved me hundreds of dollars because I was able to do it through university. And I kind of killed two birds with one stone, and it all just kind of happened for me. And yeah, people always ask me, like, how did you get into real estate? How did you know? I said, it honestly found me in a way.
Yeah, because like some college I remember taking real estate finance in college. I mean, I remember reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad my junior year in college, and it changed my whole perspective on everything as well. So is that what it was? So you took like real estate classes as part of your college credits, and then you could go take your tests to get licensed?
So I thought, wait, so it was junior year of college for you too when you read that book?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, our stories are like, they're aligning.
Yeah, it all makes sense.
It all makes sense. It's, what was the question? I have to think back.
The question was taking your real estate license. So you said you got your real estate license while in college, two birds with one stone. So I asked, did you take college classes that were real estate related, and you got to apply those? Actually,
not really. So okay. Virginia Tech has a real estate program, and they have a program called RELF, Real Estate and Finance. And so that's part of the reason I would like pick Tech, because I was like, okay, real estate and finance. First semester I transferred in, I stayed in that program. A couple weeks in, I said, I don't want to do the real estate part. I said, I could go get my license, learn way more than sitting here in these classes, going through a textbook. Like, to me, in my mind, it didn't make sense. And I'd have to stay at school for another year. And I was like, I'm not doing 5 years in college. I wanted to stop after my associates. Like, I just wanted to get out there and get going. And so I took one class. It was like the intro to real estate class. And that counted to 45 of my hours to get my license.
Oh, cool. Well, so that is So that is a big benefit. So that's what you're talking about by being in class and getting that full credit. Then you're like off to the races. So you're in college, you then get your license but you said that first you sat on it because even after you got licensed, you were told somebody told you, or you were telling yourself like, hey, I can only make money if I'm in my hometown. And you weren't in your hometown at the time because you were off at school. So did you do any transactions while you were in college?
Yes, I did. I actually got my first sale in 3 weeks, and I was trying to prep for.
How did you get your first sale? How'd you find that client?
It was actually my broker had a house listed, and someone came in and they were interested in the house, and so he let me do the showing, and then I met them, and then I guess I got the lead from the brokerage, and then met them, and they didn't want that house. So then I showed them other houses, and it's all kind of history from there.
And they came into your office, or they came in from like calling, emailing? Where'd that lead?
It was a call.
Okay. It was a call. So they called your broker and said, hey, we want to see this listing you have. They don't have an agent. He says, hey, they aren't going to buy the house. I'm not going to see him. Kristen, do you want to go show him? You go show them the house, and they turn into your clients after that.
Yeah. They called in about one house, saw it, and they were like, we don't really like that one. And then I remember she was a grad student, and her and I actually met like a month ago. She was in Raleigh visiting family, and we met the other day. Yeah. So I still keep in touch with probably 80% of my clients. I have like a few investor people who, are like, they're a different breed, but, so we met for coffee the other day, and we were like reminiscing on everything. But yeah, her parents and her were like buying a house since they were going to be up in that area for so long, and she still lives there.
Cool. So you were like the first agent they met. They called about a listing. You showed it to them. You were the first agent they met. And how did you make sure that they were going to use you as a person? Like what's the pitch? Because a lot of people are going to get leads like that. They're going to get leads from open houses. They're going to leads from working for brokers. Like what do you know now, or what worked to where you were able to get them to become your first client instead of them calling the next agent?
Yeah, I'll be totally honest. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no sales experience. I just was myself. And that's the biggest thing that I tell everyone, is just be yourself. I was very transparent. If I didn't know something, I would just say, I don't know, but I will get back to you. I did try to prepare like extra. So going to the houses, like I literally printed out the MLS sheet and just studied it, because I wanted to know. There were main things that I always wanted to know. It was the square footage, bedroom, bathroom, acreage, like what's in the vicinity, like how far are you from a grocery store? How far is the hospital? How far is the school? So when I was selling at tech, I picked up that people want to know minutes and distance to the school. So I just started to think like, okay, if I was purchasing this house, what would I want to know? And then that's what I would like study and know off the top of my head. And then they would ask me like, how old's the HVAC? And I'm like, I don't know, but let me shoot a quick text and I'll get back to you. So I own the fact that I had no idea what I was doing, but I learned so much by doing that.
I love the quick tip though, about like before you're going to do that first showing, that first anything, you're doing just a little bit of research so you can have quick answers on the things that people are usually asking. How far is it to this? How far is it to that? So then, and that way, if you know some answers to the most common things, but then you don't know answers to the others, then it's totally okay to say, I don't know. Let me get that answer. I think so many new agents are afraid to say, I don't know. Let me get the answer. So I think it's great. Like rather than make something up, just be able to know what you know, and then decide to change. So that was, you're still at tech. You do your first deal. How many deals did you do your first year?
So I try to pull my stats, because we were talking prior to the podcast and you asked me, and I said, honestly, I have no idea. I just kind of do my thing and roll. I do know I have sold over 20 by my time there, but I was only like super active in that market for 8 months. My first 8 months, I know I sold over 15. I want to say it was 18. Yeah. I'm working on getting my stats. So like maybe we can put that in the show notes or something, because I don't know.
So that's, I mean, you did 15 deals your first 8 months. A lot of agents right now would love it if they could do 15 deals in the next 8 months. What was your average sales price there? Just a guess.
Probably like around $350.
Okay. So you're doing, $2.5 million in gross sales, right? Which is probably a potential for like gross commission of like 60 grand or something in your first 8 months before you start splitting and giving everything to the brokers and the team people and stuff like that?
Well, I did. So my biggest sale was 850. Oops, sorry. I've like kicked this like 4 times. Was 850,000. I was able to gross. I did over 100 grand in my first 8 months.
Oh, that's great.
And then, yeah. So I didn't really know that until my broker came back and I got rookie of the year. So that's when they like broke everything down. He was like, Kristen, like, did you know? And I was like, nope, did not know that.
You're like, I wasn't focused. You're like, I did not have goals and numbers. I just did stuff. So how did you get deals that first year? So the first one was you showed up to an open house. How did you get your next ones?
FSBOs.
Okay. So
I built my entire business off FSBOs. Can we get comfy right now? Because I feel like I don't sit very.
You're seeing, yeah. I mean, you won't see my feet on the video, but you'll see me change positions a whole lot.
Don't have the dogs out.
Yeah, the dogs will not come out, but you can get comfy and relax. So FSBOs, I love that, right? So tell our people that don't know what that means. How did you make FSBOs your business? Let's do a step-by-step here really quick. Like what are the cliff notes? If somebody goes, I want to do what Kristen did. I want to go do 18 deals my first 8 months. She did it on FSBOs. What's the process?
Okay. You're going to have to keep my squirrel brain on track. I have undiagnosed ADHD for everyone out there, just so you know. So bear with me. I'm like having to like go back in the archives of my brain right now to be like, wow, how did Kristen do this?
Yeah.
Okay. So this beautiful platform called Zillow that we all know.
Yep.
The next world power of real estate, basically.
The next world power for the current world power.
Literally. That is what I use. So my first one was a call. And then, so that had nothing to do with like FSBOs or anything. But then next, it was a smaller market. So I just went on Zillow and I looked at people that put their house up on the for sale by owner, FSBO for sale by owner page. And everyone always thought that there was so much competition because everyone's calling these people. They honestly, like, there's only been one person that was extremely rude to me. And you just kill them with kindness. I just said, oh my God, sir, I'm so sorry for calling you. I didn't mean to upset you. I hope you have a great day. Bye. I'll never bother you again. Yeah. Other than that, people are inclined to talk to you. You have to think you're talking to another human being on the other side of the phone.
So you go on Zillow, you search your market that you're living in. You hit the for sale by owner because you can click the for sale and then there's like options on the filter where it's like by agents or by owners. I think you have to do an extra box to do by owner or something. So then you did the by owner and you see these people are listed and you call the first one that doesn't yell at you. And what's that conversation like?
I just say, hi, is this the owner of, I don't know, whatever address, 123 Main Street? That tends to be what we always use. And then you just say, yes, how can I help you? And I instantly tell them that I'm an agent because I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not trying to be shady. I'm just like, usually how it started, because it was an investor heavy market, I really did have buyers looking. So I leveraged having that first client to call these people because I'm the worst liar and I hate lying. So I'm not going to call a for sale by owner and say, hey, I have a client looking and they're really interested in your house when I don't have someone. Like, I'm not going to bullshit you. And so I called, that's how it started. There was nothing on the market. So I called them and I said, hey, I have a client that is in the market. They're trying to find an investment property. Can we come see the house? And that's usually how the conversation would get started. And then if I didn't have a client looking, I would just call, say, hey, this is Kristen Jacoby with whatever brokerage you're with. I saw that your house was listed for sale by owner. I'd love to come take a look at it. I'll be totally honest with you. I don't have a client for this specific property, but I would still like to come take a look and have it in my back pocket because if I do come across anyone that is looking, I would love to, have your property in the pipeline to bring up to them.
Okay.
And
so simple enough. So you would either say, hey, can I come look at it? Cause I've got an investor. Or if you didn't have an investor, you wouldn't use that line. You would say, hey, I'd love to come look at it. So that way, when people are looking, I will already know about your house and I can tell them about it. And how often out of 20 calls, how many of them say, yeah, I'll stop by?
Honestly, I didn't really get rejections. But the thing is, like, not that I vetted the for sale by owners, but I didn't call 20 a day. I would look at them and be like, would I be interested in taking this property on? Do I think that it would sell? Are they asking an insane amount of price? Like, what if it's a house that from just being in the market that's worth $300,000 and it's listed for $500,000? Like, I'm not going to go battle with someone about my home is worth this much when, your energy could be channeled somewhere else.
So
maybe that's ignorant of me. I don't know.
No. So if they were totally out of line, you'd say, I'm going to focus on the good ones. If they said they're for sale by owner is 350 and you think it's probably worth 300 or 325, then you're like, hey, this is like worth a visit. You go do the visit. You look at the home. Mr. Homeowner says, what do you think? How do you convert that to a deal?
I mean, I'm so straight up with them. That's why I have sales experience now, but I did not have sales experience when I started. So all I did is I just went off who I was. I was like, how can I help this person? What can I do that would have value and serve purpose to them? So I'd go through, I'd be like, honestly, how I won over 3 of the people that I did help and sold their house was I just told them, I was like, hey, have you looked into getting professional photos done? And they're like, actually, no, because it's usually just like pictures with their iPhone or whatever. And I was like, I mean, I'm more than happy to like help you out and give you my pitch and kind of show you everything that I could do for you. But I mean, if you really want to sell this on your own, maybe like hire a photographer and get some pictures out there because the photos really will help you. And I just gave them like random little tips and I don't know, things that I would do. Like one of my clients, I went to her open house. She had an open house and I went to her open house. And we sat on her back porch with one of her friends and neighbors, just like going over things that she could do. And she did get pictures done and she still couldn't sell the house. But who was the first person she called when the house didn't sell? Me. Sold it in 72 hours, all cash.
Dude, that's incredible. So you're going and meeting them, you're going through the house. You're not actually, so you weren't actually super aggressive. It said, let me do this. But I love that as a small little idea of, hey, have you thought about getting professional pictures done? This house is a lot cuter in person than I would have imagined from the pictures. I think you should hire a photographer. Like, I'd be happy to give you my whole spiel, but even if you don't want to use an agent, you should hire a photographer, get better pictures. They go do that. You say, oh, you should also like clean up this over here and maybe paint that. So they go do the advice you gave them for free. And then 2 months later, it still hasn't sold. And they go, well, Kristen was the only one that gave me advice without trying to like force me into a deal. So then they say, hey, now I want an agent. So I think that is for people that are afraid of sales, that are afraid of being aggressive, but like need leads right now. I think this is a good idea, a good pitch, some good things that any agent would be able to do. I love that. And then you ended up moving to a new market.
Oh, this is when it gets good. And I will say, like, I feel like I might have some unconventional like things that I've done and like ideas, but I joke and say I'm the least salesy person ever.
Okay. So I'll put a note to make sure we get back to your unconventional ideas. So you did business there for 8 months and then you decided now I'm moving to where and why?
So actually how I ended up here is a wild story. I don't even think like we've chatted like deep into this. I'm like, how deep should we go? We might need to like filter everything because I could talk for hours on this. So basically how I ended up in North Carolina was a cold call. I cold called someone in this market because I wanted to learn how to develop. I was listening to a podcast and because I try to always be learning because we can learn something new every day. Real estate is a wild beast where you gotta keep sharp. Listening to a podcast and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do that in my market. I was in a very small market before. And Raleigh is much bigger than where I was, but Raleigh is still like medium compared to some other markets out there. Cold call this person. And I was like, hey, I'm just really, and I got his voicemail. So I left a voicemail. It's like, hey, I'm just really interested in learning how to develop. I listened to, it was Tom Ferry's podcast actually. And his assistant called me back. And then ever since then we had a phone call and that's kind of how I ended up here because I was picking his brain. We ended up, our 30-minute phone call turned into 3 hours. And then a week later, I got a call that said, what would it take for you to move to North Carolina and be on my team? I said, you, sir, are crazy. I'm not leaving this market that I just built a whole career in. But here I am.
How long after the no, I'll never move until you actually moved?
A month. The turnaround time, he's probably one of the best salespeople I've ever met. So, and I'm hard to sell to, but not convinced me, but I was in a toxic relationship back in Virginia. So it was kind of ideal timing to be able to phase out because I was having a hard time like escaping that. I'm not trying to go into like personal life or anything, but yeah, so it was kind of good timing to
so it's a little bit fateful. Without him calling, you wouldn't have thought about actually like moving to rechange, because a lot of people have a difficult time when they move to try to restart their real estate business there. And then you build up like so much effort, you build up your pipeline already and you're starting. So I can see that being overwhelming. Lots of agents are moving right now because as the market changes in their city and they hear about the market being strong in other places in the US, people are jumping around all over the place. What is something that you wish you would have known about moving your business beforehand? Like something that like in hindsight, you're like, I wish I would have known this before I decided to move out to Raleigh.
Do it sooner. If you want to move, do it, but do it because you love the place, not because the market's better. Or I knew that I did not want to stay in Blacksburg. It was actually kind of a fight for me to stay there because I turned down my corporate job to start selling real estate. And I just wish that I wasn't so afraid of penetrating a bigger market. Another thing that I would have done is just, as soon as I got here, just hit the ground running, not let the fact that, oh my gosh, I don't know the market. I don't know the area. How am I supposed to sell real estate in a place that I just moved? Now that's my biggest asset, being here. I've helped so many people move here, and I was like, oh, you're trying to find a gym? That was one of my biggest concerns when I first moved here too. But here's a list of all the best gyms in Raleigh. So, well, and I guess your experience.
Yeah. So, and I guess part of that, you had just moved there, you got to form, it was kind of like the very beginning when you started your business near the university, you would ask the questions of like, what are the things people want to know? And then something that was fresh with Raleigh is they were all the things you wanted to know. Before you chose a neighborhood, you were like, well, where am I going to grocery shop? Where am I going to work out? Where's the view best? Whatever. Like, what are some of those things that are the questions? So you already mentioned one, like, hey, where are the closest gyms, or what are the best gyms? What are some other things that people ask about in Raleigh or somewhere else that'd be good to have an answer for?
Another big thing is people want to know like the good spots, like where do people hang out at? That's something else that I want to know. I thought Raleigh was a much bigger city before I moved here, honestly, but it still has like small town vibes, which I like. But I wanted to know, like, where were people my age? Where could I go walking at, dusk and feel safe? Raleigh is pretty safe in my opinion. So you really can't go wrong there. But it took me a year to figure out like where I really wanted to be. But I mean, the biggest thing for me was grocery stores and gyms.
Yeah. Okay. So then how have you gotten like your last 4 or 5 deals? Where did those deals come from?
So I actually was a Zillow Premier agent, which is, we could probably do a whole nother podcast on that. I was very successful with Zillow Premier, and then I also referrals.
What is Zillow Premier? What type of the Zillow's ads is that?
So Zillow Premier is, well, I don't know. I think they are now changing it in all markets to like do that, but they basically select teams. And then if you're on the team, you partnered with Zillow. And then if you're one of the agents, then your phone rings and then you go meet the people at the property. I liked it, but I knew it wasn't a long-term strategy, but doing Zillow Premier allowed me to meet some of the best people. And I now have really great relationships with them.
So what that really is, it's like paying for advertising with Zillow, different versions of that. And then if somebody clicks on a listing in Raleigh, it'll say like, John Smith is the listing agent, but then your photo and number will go up if it says like, ask an agent a question or like schedule a viewing with an agent. So then, and then they become a buyer lead. So you get Zillow Premier leads, people call, and it was a temporary way for you to get your first deals. So if someone is buying buyer leads anyway, any different version of that, but that's simply like a cold, I think Zillow Premier is a cold buyer lead. They have a version where there's like a hot buyer lead where you split commission percentages with them instead.
40%.
Was that what Zillow Premier was? Okay.
And that was part of my problem is if you're on a team and you're on Zillow Premier, you're not, I'm sorry, I'm really transparent. Like, I'm not going to hide my story. I'm not going to hide my experience. But as long as I have permission to be unfiltered.
Yeah. So with Zillow Premier, you would get like a warm lead. You would convert them to a sale, I guess most of the time. And warm lead meaning like they would do something on Zillow. Somebody else from Zillow would actually talk to them first and be like, well, how interested are you really? Like, have you pre-qualified and things like that? If you're giving away the benefit of Premier is you're not paying advertising ahead of time. You're paying a percentage at closing. The other option is you could pay for advertising ahead of time, then keep more of your deal. But you were talking about, what was the average price out in Raleigh?
Well, I don't know. It depends on I think it's like 482 now.
If 482, if it's 482, then that's a really, really good guess. So around 500,000 is fine. So like around 500 grand for houses
I'm like
in Raleigh.
freaking out. It depends on where you're at.
So let's say that. So so if we did our quick math, $500,000, 2.5% on the buyer's side, you're talking 12,500 is your gross commission. But then 40% went to Zillow Premier. And so out of 12,500, now you've got 7,000 left. Your broker gets a percentage off the gross. I'm guessing not off that 40%. So if your broker keeps 30% off of 12,000, then they take another 3,600. And so now off of that $12,000 commission, you're walking home with like $3,000 or $4,000. Does that sound about right?
Gut-wrenchingly right.
Yeah. Gut-wrenching. It's really interesting. There's so many interesting perspectives for new agents because I think people can see it as both ways. And I had a guy on the podcast recently say if he could do it all over again, man, he would just do that his first 2 years, knowing that it sucks, knowing he's not going to get paid very much money, but you're going to learn how to transact, and it's better than no deals, right? Because you gotta learn, you gotta walk before you run. But it still is, any true entrepreneur, there's this weird balance between what am I getting versus what are other people getting. And if I'm doing the work and they're getting so much of it. So I could definitely imagine the struggle back and forth. So you've done that. You learned some transactions that way. Are you on the same team still?
So I recently just did a brokerage switch. But I want to say the person that you just mentioned, I'm not sure who it is, but I wholeheartedly agree. And if you're new to a market, in order to become more saturated in it, absolutely. But, if you were a solo agent before, you can only stomach it for so long.
That's right. I guess that's the bigger part. Like because real estate isn't as easy as they tell us before we all get licensed. And it is gut wrenching when you see this big old, because what happens when a buyer or buys or sells a house, they see the $12,000 line item and they go, oh my God, the commission is so expensive. I should do this myself. And so that seems like a lot of money. And then when you're getting let's say 20 to 30% of that, then you're like, man, that was a lot of work for 20 or 30% when everybody's always after the commission, attacking the permission. So you're with that team for a while. You just decide to come to a new team, probably based on all sorts of different stuff. But let's say rather than go into why you leave a place, what were the questions you were asking, or what type of brokerage did you want to go to? So the one that you picked, when you went to change brokerages, what were you looking for in a new brokerage? Right? Because there's lots of reasons people leave, but rather than focus on that, what were you looking for the next one? What's the type of brokerage you wanted before you jumped to this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like I haven't really talked about this because it's been so chaotic and just everything happening in life that I just kind of got to the point where I wanted more flexibility. Being a 1099, you are self-employed, and I didn't feel like I had that freedom anymore. I wanted my time back, most of all. I tend to be a bit unfiltered, so I'm trying to think of the best way to articulate everything because it's still very fresh, but I got into this business to have freedom, to have time to unleash my creativity, and being on a team doesn't always necessarily allow you to have that. So that was the biggest reason for my switch.
Okay. So you felt like you were treated more like your real estate career had transitioned to where you felt more like an employee than an entrepreneur.
Correct.
And that you wanted to have more time over that again. Cool. So
I mean, how real can we get on this? I'm like,
Yeah, get real. This is like a whole different version of TikTok where you're just going to hit. I mean, we won't hit as many people as your TikTok I'm about to talk about, but really your listeners out there, like when it comes to like being real, like it's really our goal is to be able to help provide, one, give you a chance to tell your story, and two, provide value for new agents that can help get permission to quit, get permission to restart, get permission to move, or they're getting ready to sign on with their first team. And if there's things that went wrong with yours and people get to hear about it, helps them find a better one. So you wanted that, but but I guess you said, hey, how deep do you want to go? How real do you want to get? Like what should people avoid when they're trying to join a team?
I mean, full transparency, I really get in my head about sharing my story only because, my mom's always like, Kristen, did you overshare again? It's like, yeah, because I do want to help other people. I want to share what I've been through, but then I freak out because I don't want it to be taken the wrong way. I don't want to say the wrong thing. So, I'm more than happy to share and just be completely transparent of everything, but I'm so afraid of, coming back and biting me in the ass essentially. But I mean, full guard down, I was so unhappy where I was. I picked up my entire career. I was extremely successful in Virginia. I did like a little bit of team stuff, was starting to build a team there. But I picked it all up. I left it behind and moved here, restarted my entire career. I did not know what I was getting myself into. And during this transition on the team I was on, I got extremely depressed. Like, it makes me want to cry because I turned into someone I was not. I became just like this lifeless person. And it makes me so sad to see that, real estate can do one of two things. It can transform your life in the best way possible, or it can completely deplete your soul. And this, again, was my experience. And at this point, I've experienced the super high of real estate, being utterly successful, to waking up every day not knowing if I could get by again. And I think this surprised a lot of people. I actually have never opened up about this before because I don't think I've put together the right words, but here we go. I continue to show up for myself. A lot of people didn't know what I was going through because I'm known for my big personality. I tend to bring a lot of energy where I go, but I started to just look and feel like shit all the time. My business went to shit. I don't even know how to say it. When you're not vibing at a good frequency towards the end, my clients were legitimately asking, they're like, are you okay? And that's when I knew that something had to change, because it was sucking the soul out of me and my time. I was spending my time building someone else's business, and the entrepreneur in me was not cool with that at all. Now, was it full of great opportunities? Absolutely. I learned so much, but the reason I went there was to learn and to have mentorship and grow. And it was doing nothing but putting me in a box. Some things I'm very passionate about now, helping other people find the right brokerage for them. If they want to join a team. My biggest fear when I got into real estate was I am so deathly afraid of being taken advantage of. And it's now happened twice. People can see my work ethic and the just drive that I have. And it's been taken advantage twice. And now I protect myself heavily because I don't want that to be used and abused again. But it's also put a fire under my ass that I am so excited to get after it. I'm so excited to just have my business again, be able to unleash that creativity, have my time back, be able to do things like this. Before, I woke up and did nothing but work for someone else and made a fourth or a third.
Yeah.
I was working 5 times as hard, making a third of the amount of money that I made when I first started in real estate and didn't know anything. And then I knew something and I was making like nothing.
You're like, hey, I'm better off doing Zillow Premier Leads by myself. So when did you join the new brokerage?
Last week. Yeah.
Last week. All right. So then when I interview you in like 6 months, and when I interview you again in like 6 or 7 months, we'll see, like, did this one work for you? So you've had a lot of things actually work. You've actually done a lot of transactions. You've had a lot of like ups and downs as a new agent. What is one thing you wish you would have known before you did any of it? Like way back in college when you're taking that real estate finance class, like you read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book and you're like, cool, this is real estate's for me. But what's something now you're like, man, I wish I would have known this, or every new agent needs to know this?
Oh, that's such a good question. I honestly want to say like some kind of like organization or like system, because I've now met so many people, but it's like, it's all over the place. So almost I have a place to keep everything from the beginning, because in the beginning you're like, oh, like it's kind of slower. Like I have time to do this, I can do that. But once you start getting busy, everything just ends up everywhere. And I wish that this can sound really weird, but started a Google Drive I've documented my entire journey over the past 2.5 years, but it's like all over the place. And, I want to keep a spreadsheet of every single person that I've met in real estate. That's actually probably the biggest thing. Clients, people that I've networked with, other realtors, like have a spreadsheet of everyone, their contact information, so we can keep in contact, because I can't remember a lot just because of childhood trauma. So that would probably be my biggest thing, is to have like everything in one spot, which might be kind of weird. And that answer is probably going to change in like 5 minutes.
It's totally okay if the answer changes. So I really want to get into how I met in parentheses, since we haven't met in person yet, or or really all the fun stuff and the things that when I first saw you online, I'm like, hey, are you doing this? Are you doing this? I think you should be doing this for your business. But I guess the last step really quick. So I think you told us a lot of things that what you're looking for, but so right now, new agent, you've got a chance to give them advice. They are going to join a team or join a brokerage. If you're speaking to that young agent, if you're mentoring them saying, hey, I've been through a lot, here's what you should be focusing on. What's that last advice? Like what type of company should they be trying to go work for?
A place that truly supports you, that wants to see your light shine in this world, whether it's you want to hit it hard on your social media and be posting on TikTok. They might not understand it, but they're going to say, I am in your corner. I am rooting for you. By the way, I love supporting people on social media because I've been on there not being supported. So I support people because I love seeing people put their light out into this world. But also someone who's going to mentor you and kind of show you the ropes and not let you flounder, because this business can get tricky really quick. But I found that if you just be yourself, be genuine, someone's going to take you under their wing.
Yeah. And agents, if you're listening and you're just getting started, right? Or you're that Uber driver that's getting ready to quit their job and go become an agent somewhere. Like, I think that I would echo what Kristen's saying. And I would say, don't be afraid to ask them during those interviews, because there's a lot of good brokerages and a lot of bad ones. And there's a lot of good team leaders and a lot of bad ones. And their business grows by hiring the right people. But I think it's important to ask them, like, okay, so what's in it for me, right? And it's not selfish to say that, but this is supposed to be an exchange. And so they're going to say, hey, come join my team. And when you join the team, I teach you. And of your $10,000 in commission, 500 goes to this, and 1,000 goes to this, and 500 goes to this. But I'm going to help you. I think it's important to say, like, where will I be getting leads? Or what's your favorite lead? Or what's your favorite advice you're going to give me when I come in? Am I, is there a CRM? Is there a software? Is there a process of yours that I'll be following? Or will I supposed to make my own? And then, hey, if I'm learning at the beginning and I'm trying to do, listing appointments and write contracts and things like that, like, what is the support that your team will do? What part will you help me with? What part am I on my own with? And then they're going to say, oh, we help with that, right? And one of the best, no matter what you say, they're going to say, we help you. And I think a great follow-up, and I do this when I'm interviewing employees, right? Because they say, like, you're like, are you generous? They're like, yep, I'm generous. And I think the best thing that you can say after that is say, could you give me like one example of of a recent time when an agent came to you with a question about a listing and what that conversation was like? Because you'll see right in their eyes if it's something that happens all the time or not, or if it's something they do all the time or not. Like if somebody says, I'm super, super generous, all the time with whatever. And you go, cool, what was the last time? If they're super, super generous, that's going to take 10 seconds it's not going to take 10 seconds to think of something, right? It's going to be off the top of their head. Or if they're a super hard worker and problem solver, and at their last job, they had to fix things other people broke. And you say, cool, what was one of them? Right? They're going to be able to name, if they're telling the truth, they're going to name it off the top of their head. So anytime you are interviewing a team leader, like they are interviewing you to see if you should join the team, but you should be interviewing them to see if you want to join the team. And it goes both ways. Because real estate's awesome. And if you join the wrong team, it can dim your light, a lot like what Kristen's talking about. She's had plenty of good experiences, plenty of negative ones, and but a lot of success in those first couple of years, especially considering, starting in COVID and things like that. I one more question before I go into TikTok, because I just want to talk about TikTok, even though we've already been talking for like an hour. So D1 sports, right? So I think that athletes, I think everyone should be an athlete. I think every kid should learn some sports. I think everyone should try to be an athlete because it really, really helps them. And I give a lot of my like self-discipline, a lot of my success to the idea, that I was a wrestler in high school, or that I, grew up doing sports and things like that. And some of the most successful guys I know in our Go Abundance Mastermind, we're all wrestlers, right? And so it's funny when we put that together, we realize like all of us, like business guys who you would never think of that, right? We have that in common. So for me, I think sports really helps. For you, your experience in D1 sports, how has that helped you in real estate?
Oh my gosh, the discipline. It's taught me time management, because you have to think like when we're training to play at a high level, you're showing up, you're practicing. It's a constant grind, but it's not just about practicing to get better at your craft. It's, what are you eating? What is your sleep like? What are you doing every day to get better? And, that's why I've implemented, obviously D1 sports are different than real estate, but little things like journaling. So that small thing every morning can help your business excel. So it's paying attention to the small things, the habits, what's going to get you to the next level. Like treat it like you're training to compete in the Olympics. I mean, depending on how big your visions are, compare it to that. I think that consistency, that's one of the biggest words on my vision board. I have it right above my desk, because consistency is a pillar that my business is personally, it's a foundation of it. Without consistency, you're not gonna go far from the starting line. Yeah.
One of my favorite close friends now that came out of a podcast interview, I think a lot of you listeners probably know, is a guy named Elliot Hoyt. So Elliot was he played football at Boise State. So him and I were definitely rivals in college. I went to University of Oregon at the time. And Oregon and Boise were bitter rivals. They played last week. He actually went to the Oregon game. But Elliot was a guy that I interviewed on here, and he was he was picked in like Realtors Top 30 under 30, and it was really funny because he shared about the time that he was an Uber driver listening to the podcast and decided to become a real estate agent afterward. And so when I reached out to interview him, it was a pretty surreal thing. But what him and I have in common a lot is he has this huge team in Boise. He's really, really crushing social media and everything else. But so much of the credit he gives is that he played college football. And by playing college football, he had to learn a whole bunch of habits, and the not give up habit and the do the stuff no matter what. So treating, any habit you're trying to build, if people have this idea that they need to eat healthy every day, or they need to jog 30 minutes a day, or whatever it is, when you transition those habits into real estate, that could be knock on your doors every day or call a for sale by owner every day, whatever it is, and apply those habits. So Kristen, how long have you been making videos on TikTok and Instagram?
So Instagram started when I got into real estate, because I just started making like little videos about, real estate, things I'm doing. TikTok is a little bit of a different story, because I love documenting my life. I love vlogging. It's my digital diary is what I call it. So TikTok, I started about a year and a half ago, just documenting my life. It's like putting random stuff out there. And it really doesn't have anything to do with real estate.
I'm pulling up your TikTok right now as we're talking.
TikTok is how you and I met. And by me sharing my personal life, my personal journey has actually helped my business tremendously.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So one of the reasons I first reached out to you is you had a video get a gazillion views. So then I started following some of your story. And then there was somewhere in the middle of it, I said like, hey, have you figured out how to convert this to more real estate deals yet? Because what people like and they follow you for is so much of your personality with some of that. But it's like, hey, have you converted to anything else? So have you had a lot of videos go viral?
Recently, yes. But that's one thing, like when you asked me that, I remember when you asked me that question, I never thought about that. And I guess that's like one thing where I honestly just post videos because I love it. I love creating content and I've never really thought of that aspect of it. But so many people have come to me lately and are like, Kristen, why aren't you doing more with this? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm trying to find your big video. How many follows was the first one? How many views did your wedding date video get?
You know? A few 100,000.
Yeah. Like it was all over the For You page. So you've been consistent on TikTok for a long time. Just posting, videos, right? And then you posted one that said, hey, I'm going to a wedding. I'm looking for a wedding date. Like DM me if you're interested.
Yeah.
And and TikTok did its thing and put it on everybody's For You page and people shared it, liked it, commented on it. And you had a ton of people message you going, hey, I want to be your wedding date. Where you had this and then you started sharing all the stories of narrowing it down. People were commenting on your stuff every time. They were so excited to see who it was going to be. They were so excited for your reveal. This whole thing is a very personal journey that you took on TikTok. But as a result, you end up getting a lot of followers, a lot of people, that now kind of check in with you every day on stuff. So what has that been like so far? And have you started to get any real estate conversions out of that?
I've actually had more business networking than conversions, but a lot of my clients kept up with it. I've met more people out of it than anything. And I posted that TikTok, not expecting. I actually joked with one of my girlfriends. I was like, because she was like, Kristen, just post it. And I was like, when this flops and this is embarrassing and everyone from high school makes fun of me for it, you're going to be the one wiping away the tears because it's going to be embarrassing. No. But yeah, I woke up the next morning.
She had to be the first one to like it, right? You told her she had to like it first so that at least somebody did.
Yep. I made her go like it and she commented on it. And then after that, I didn't look at it and I opened it up the next morning and I said, oh my God, this is nuts. But that experience not only allowed me to start posting more about who I am, my journey on Instagram, because Instagram was always my professional. I'd never show anything about me looking for a wedding date or anything about my dating life or, things like that. Well, not much of my dating life, but, because I work so much that it's kind of non-existent, which is why I was looking for a wedding date. And it was actually a client wedding too. So it all kind of ties together, but I never once posted that it was for my client. It was nothing to do with real estate. And then, I've connected with a lot of people that want to get into real estate. That's probably been the biggest thing. And I was able to make friends here in Raleigh. A lot of, now some of my close girlfriends reached out and they're like, oh my gosh, let's be friends. And I've only lived here for a year and a half. So now I'm just able to, real estate is so much more than real estate,
Yeah. It's, that's probably the best way to put it. Real estate is so much more than real estate. It's about, I think there's a lot of people out there, and this was one of the most exciting things I wanted to be able to talk to you about, or some of the people that are out there, because I've interviewed a lot of people, and I've interviewed a lot of people that make all of their money through social media, through balances of TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever their niche is and whatever their audience is. And it's helped them create this business. And I think there's probably, so twofold. There are going to be some people out there right now that are afraid to use social media at all, that are afraid to post a TikTok, post an Instagram. And again, you have several videos now that have hundreds of thousands of views, lots of comments, lots of interaction, lots of sharing, things like that. And then you did a good job of capitalizing on it after you got that, after you got some of those boosts where you continued posting on new things and resharing back and forth. But what advice would you give to people that they're told social media is the answer? You got to post on social media in order to get anything. And even though it hasn't been much for you for real estate yet, like social media, you're a success at right now. So if people are afraid to get on social media or they're afraid that their first video is going to flop, what advice would you give them on how to grow a TikTok or grow an Instagram?
My mind is going crazy with so much that I want to share right now. Do it. Like, don't second guess yourself. Get comfortable being on camera. Like, I just sit here and act like I'm talking to you. Like, if you weren't here right now, I would just look at my camera and act like I'm talking to someone else on the other side. One of my best friends, where we can just talk for forever. Don't overthink it in your head and just be yourself. At the end of the day, like, you know who you are. Everyone has a light. I believe that everyone has a light inside them, and it's meant to be shown to the world. Don't watch it back. I don't edit much of my stuff at all. You might see that on some of my TikToks. I have so many typos and stuff like that because I don't care, and I'm figuring it out. And believe it or not, like, I get in my head a lot. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe that I just stuttered that word, or should I post that? Or did I overshare? Did I share too much? Post it. I mean, if I wasn't just posting my stuff and just being genuine with it and just not caring, I'm not going to lie. I post my stuff and I get off the app because I don't want to go back and watch it and be like, oh my gosh, I need to delete that because I just shared about my toxic relationship and how it really affected me, blah, blah, blah. Because I just get in front of the camera and I just talk like I'm talking to one of my best friends, and it flows. And I'm like a certified yapper, as we probably know from the podcast. I go on tangents.
Yeah. I think it's really important advice for anybody out there. And I would just echo that. Like, if you look at, I encourage you guys to go find Kristen Jacoby on TikTok, on Instagram, go through and watch all the old videos and the new ones, and you can start to see this growth. And I've had very similar experiences with mine. It's like, I've had these professional videos that I had really, really good topics and things that I thought people would want to hear about real estate and investing and things like that. And I've had those videos flop and get 1,000 views, 2,000 or 3,000 views, like almost nothing. And there's like all this effort, and video editors did it. And then I'm on my way to work, and I'm in my car, and I do a video while I'm driving, and I post it direct to the app. And it's about like whatever I'm thinking about right now. Right. And sometimes those are the ones that that get huge. I posted one that was like the challenges of, it was like, hey, we were trying to hire people. We invited 10 of them to show up on a Zoom, and nobody showed up on the Zoom. And I'm like, this is so crazy. I thought people wanted jobs. That got like 500,000 views. Now, mind you, I got like 3,000 or 4,000 comments of people telling me that I'm an idiot for still doing Zoom interviews, and that what about the people that don't have phones? And like, it was and I'm thinking that there wouldn't be on Instagram. You got all these really interesting things. So I guess the advice I would give people is just pushing out content once a day about anything. It could be about your business. It could be about your life. It could be whatever you're doing, because consistency will start to hit, and then you'll start to see what hits. And I would also say, and you have to turn off your emotions a little bit, because on the ones that go really, really big, I've got a video that has like 4 million views, and of the 10,000 comments, 9,000 of them tell me I'm an idiot, right? And in my mind, I love it, because that's why 4 million people are seeing it. It boosts the algorithm. The one that I said it was so hard to hire people, and most people told me I was an idiot, I ended up hiring 8 guys from that video, because then 8 guys reached out and said, hey, I would join the Zoom. I want a job. I want to work for your construction team. And so like the good comes with the bad. And then the advice too that I had for listeners who are growing social media, but really what I was trying to tell Kristen a few weeks ago was like Instagram and social media, that's the stuff that people are, they're accepting, right? They're like signing up to watch you. They're like signing up to follow you, right? And you will get follows and you will get unfollows. But like if someone gives you their email address, and you bombard them with too many emails about real estate, they're going to unsubscribe, right?
I
if they don't want
so
in
much right now.
right? Like they're going to unsubscribe if you're like emailing them. But on social media, they're like giving you permission to blast their feed with stuff. So I think
be fun, be entertaining, show value. Like there's so much.
Yeah. So they need to like and trust you, right? Like people follow you, Kristen, because you're fun, because you're telling these stories, because you share stories of like spilling wine versus the party stuff versus like videos of people next to you that are mad that you're videoing them, like all the stuff, right? So before I called you and said like, hey, I want to interview you. Yeah, I knew you were going to be a lot of fun. And so that's like the first step. People say in real estate, you need people to know, like, and trust you, right? So like the know and like part can come with you Instagramming and TikToking, and this is anybody out there, about all the stuff you do during the day. If you play soccer, if you play field hockey, like if you go walk the trails, if you have a dog, like if you need a wedding date for a party, like that's how you like meet people and get fun. But then I want to encourage all of you guys, like you got to push in there what you're also doing with real estate, because that's the trust part. I'd be amazed at how many people, when your friend gets a listing, you go, oh, why aren't I your agent? And they go, I didn't know you were an agent, or I didn't know you were taking deals. Kristen, if you did a poll on your Instagram or your TikTok, you should do a poll after this. Like do a video and say like, how many of you guys know what I do for a living? Right?
Okay, we're doing it. I'll film it after this and I'll send it to you.
So film it right after this. Like, how many of you guys know what I do for a living? Because you will be shocked that the percentage is probably much, much lower. And it should be that 100% of people know what you do for a living, because 100% of your friends that you're like hang out with know what you do for a living. They know you're a real estate agent.
Yeah. Wait, okay. Quickly. I give you full permission. Can you audit and grow my social media right now? Because so you found my TikTok. And then you reached out to me. I'm going to be totally transparent. I didn't realize like how legit you were until like yesterday, because like, I guess I'm so like do because I'm like focused on so many things that I was like, oh, this guy's just like really cool. And you were like, keep posting your story, like do this, do that. And I was like, oh, like, thanks for the support, dude. Like, I appreciate it.
Yeah. You're like, who's this random guy telling me I should figure out how to make money? Well, cause I've seen it, and I've seen people do what you're doing and get vulnerable and get huge and turn it into these big old businesses. But I think if you do this poll, and all of the listeners right now, if you are on social media at all, do this poll. Ask people, do you know what I do for a living? Do you know what I do for my business? And it could be like just a quick yes, no. Or in comments, like, hey, can you guys tell me what I do? Like, I'm really curious how many people know what I do for a living. Like, can you guys tell me? Because the goal should be that like 70 to 80%. If I ask people what I do for a living on my Instagram and TikTok, and I'll do the same poll, and we'll see what our percentages are. Yes. You guys all you listeners can hold me accountable too. I bet that I will be a 90 percentile know what I do for a living. So as my dying thoughts on all this, right, is this has been a fun talk about real estate. It's been a fun talk about new agents' journey, the pros and cons about like what works in real estate and what doesn't, and what people should be looking for. Kristen talked about Zillow Premier Leads and how to get the for sale by owner stuff. I loved the way that she said that at the beginning for it. We're going to do a follow-up to this podcast a little bit later. We're having less technical difficulties about where we go deep into like the growth that we've done with Kristen's TikTok and some of the auditing we've done. So she turns it, because if you're getting hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok, on Instagram for something, you should be making hundreds of thousands of dollars in real estate because of it. So for you guys out there let's start with figuring out how many people follow you that know you're a real estate agent. And if your percentage is less than half, which is ludicrous, but I bet most of you guys it's going to be less than half, it means you are not telling people enough what you do for a living. And there's clever ways to do it without being a salesperson, because you're going to have a lot of people in your world that are going to know and like you from social media, from friends, from whatever else. But if they don't know you're a real estate agent and they can't trust you as their real estate agent, they're never going to hire you. You want to make sure when somebody says, hey, I'm thinking about buying a house, who do I know? They go, oh, I know Kristen's an agent. Oh, I know this person's an agent. Kristen, again, our recording is saying we went way too long, so we're running out of space. I'm sure I'll have you back on the show in a few months when we have like updates on your new brokerage and your TikTok and everything else. But any final thoughts as we close this out?
No, I mean, I'm just really excited to be here. I had so much anxiety be fully transparent because I've never shared a lot of my story or really much. I do share a lot on my TikTok, but I do it, I guess, like in the moment. That's another thing, is like just film in the moment and it just happens organically. So yeah, I'm just really, really excited. And I don't really know what else to say.
That's why I told you not to prep for this one. So if you want to go find Kristen, if you want to ask her about moving to Raleigh, if you have referrals you want to send there, you want to find her on TikTok, it's, is it at Kristen Jacoby? Is that your Instagram handle, your TikTok handle, everything?
All my handles are Kristen with 2 N's, Jacoby. So
Kristenn Jacoby. That'll be in our show notes also, and you'll see it on YouTube. Any other way people should reach out to you, Kristen?
Those are the best ways to find me. I monitor all my socials myself. So until I hire an assistant here very shortly, it's still me. So reach out to me directly.
If you listen to last week's podcast, he's going to tell you why you should have an assistant already. Kristen, thanks so much for coming on the show, for bearing your soul, for getting vulnerable and talking about things that you've never talked about before.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. This was awesome. I can't wait to hopefully do another if you invite me back, if I didn't embarrass myself.
Both of us will make sure we have good internet when we do. Hey, Real Estate Rockstars, if you want to talk more to me, the best place to chat that I've told you guys all the time is over at Instagram. That's my happiest place. I have TikToks and everything else like that too, but Instagram seems to be where most of my conversations happen. It's at Aaron Amuchastegui. Luckily, I have a really unique last name. So if you type in Aaron A, it's going to find me. I'll be that first one that pops up in your feed if you're interested in real estate at all. I've gotten pretty lucky on that algorithm search. So come talk to me. I'm going to talk Kristen into joining our Real Estate Rockstars Mastermind in March out here in Austin. By last year, this time, we were sold out. We still have some tickets left for everybody out there. So if you want to learn more about that, you go to realestaterockstarsmastermind.com. We have built a great community, and it happens in Austin, Texas, and it happens the day before South by Southwest starts. So if anybody's thinking about coming to Austin for that anyway, it's a great excuse to come to Austin during a really cool time of year, meet a bunch of agents like you, and really get fired up. So again, Real Estate Rockstars, Kristen, thanks for being here. And Real Estate Rockstars, thanks for listening.